Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye urges lawmakers to pass regulatory reform bills. The cabinet is also holding discussions on deregulating Korea's biohealth and drone industries. Korea's rival political parties are in negotiations to end the deadlock at the National Assembly. They were sparked by the government's controversial plan to reintroduce state-issued history textbooks. Lastly, leaders of the United States and Britain say it's increasingly likely the Russian airliner which crashed in Egypt was brought down by a bomb. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Friday, the 6th of November. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. And we start at the nation's top office, where President Park Geun-hye and her cabinet are holding a regulatory reform meeting. President Park and related ministers are expected to review the progress made from their previous meeting and listen to suggestions from all levels of society. Opening the session, the President urged lawmakers to swiftly pass bills related to shaking up regulations in the country. She said many bills are still being held up in Parliament and added that lawmakers must consider the livelihoods of the people. Now, some of the key agenda items at today's meeting include regulations blocking the growth of Korea's biohealth and drone industries. And Korea's rival parties are attempting, at least, to normalise parliamentary affairs at the National Assembly as the deadlock continues over the government's plan to bring back state-authored history textbooks to the nation's secondary schools. As of yet, though, efforts have proven unsuccessful. The deputy floor leaders of the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy met this morning. But no details have been released yet about what they talked about and if they made any breakthroughs. The NPAD is boycotting the Assembly in protest over the textbook plan. A special budget committee opened this morning to begin deliberations on the government's budget for next year. Lawmakers from the NPAD were not present. The committee chair said that as the legal deadline to approve the budget is early next month, he had no choice but to open the committee without the main opposition. Nearly 2 weeks have passed since the reunion for war-separated families took place just north of the border, but still no word on when the two Koreas will sit down for talks as previously agreed. Speaking at a unification preparatory committee meeting on Thursday, President Park Geun-hye once again called on Pyongyang to resume governmental talks and stressed the need to establish an inter-Korean exchange and cooperation office. Now, issues such as the resumption of tours to North Korea's Mount Kumgang and setting up a permanent channel for exchanges for separated families still needs to be addressed. The two Koreas agreed to hold more talks on those issues during a high-level meeting back in August. South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, now in Luxembourg for an ASEM foreign ministers meeting, is continuing to garner international support for Seoul's efforts to make sure North Korea gives up its nuclear weapons. And Minister Yoon will travel to Iran on Saturday for talks with his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif. The officials will discuss Tehran's progress regarding its landmark nuclear agreement as well as North Korea's nuclear ambitions. The South Korean minister will meet with Iran's President Hassan Rouhani, where they hope to reinforce bilateral relations between the two countries and also discuss regional issues, not only in Northeast Asia, but also in the Middle East. Now, Minister Yoon is the first South Korean foreign minister to visit Iran since 2001. Now, it clocks in at 6,000 pages and has been a source of controversy since it was proposed 5 years ago. The full text of the Trans-Pacific Partnership has finally been released for everyone to see. After assessing the fine print, the Korean government says the TPP is not really that different from the free trade deal between Seoul and Washington. Kim Min-ji reports.
No big surprises. That's what Korea's Trade Ministry said about the level of market liberalization of the recently agreed U.S.-led trade pact, adding that the TPP is similar to the free trade agreement between Seoul and Washington. The long-awaited text of the deal was released on Thursday after being under wraps for more than 5 years, revealing the details of a pact which will open up trade in 40% of the world's economy. The agreement, made up of 30 chapters, outlines a market opening rate of 95 to 100% on export products depending on the country over the course of 30 years. That's about the same as the Korea-US deal that requires the elimination of tariffs on 98 to 100% of products over 25 years. The agreement also has a chapter on e-commerce and state-owned enterprises, and also has stricter rules regarding intellectual property rights, labor, and environmental protection. Saying it's too early to say if the decision to stay out initially was wise or not, Seoul's Trade Ministry did point out that most countries in the TPP agreed to open their manufacturing sectors fully to foreign goods, which could mean more competition for Korean products. For one, the U.S. plans to scrap tariffs on Japanese electronic and mechanical products immediately, whereas the Korea-U.S. FTA eliminates tariffs on manufactured goods over 10 years, which means Korean products won't be tariff-free until 2021. The ministry says it will check the fine print more carefully and hold hearings before it makes a final decision on whether to join or not. Korea currently has FTAs with 10 of the 12 TPP countries, with the exception of Japan and Mexico. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's tourism industry has lost billions of dollars in revenue over the past few months alone because of the recent outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome. The Korea Culture and Tourism Institute says the number of foreign tourists who visited Korea from June to September was 1.5 million lower this year than the same period last year. Also, from July to August, when fears about the outbreak were at their peak, accommodation and tourist attractions saw an 80% on-year drop in guests and visitors. Now, given that the average tourist spends $1,200 during their stay, the Institute says the nation's tourism sector suffered losses of between $2.5 and $3.1 billion as a result of the MERS outbreak. The outbreak that began in May infected more than 180 people and killed 37 before it was brought under de facto control in late July. Now, Hyundai Motor's rebranding of its existing Genesis sedan into a separate luxury brand is receiving some glowing reviews from foreign media. Reuters reports that the premium lineup should help boost profitability and fits with Chairman Jung Mong-goo's long-held ambitions to take the car maker to the next level, more upmarket. Automotive News says the sub-brand will help Hyundai improve its image from just good value, really, to one more associated with style and prestige, like Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics. Hyundai's sub-brand aims to have 6 new sub-brand vehicles on the road by 2020 as it attempts to compete with other high-end automakers like Lexus and Mercedes-Benz. Now, Hanmi Pharmaceutical has signed a license deal with a French drug maker to develop experimental diabetes treatment. The Korean pharmaceutical company could look to make $4.2 billion from the deal, and this would make it the biggest pharmaceutical deal in Korea's history. Kwon Jang-oh has the details.
French drug maker Sanofi signed a license deal on Thursday for Hanmi Pharmaceutical's Quantum project. It's a diabetes treatment in development aiming to turn daily insulin treatments into monthly ones. Hanmi will receive $430 million initially, but that figure could reach as high as $3.8 billion after registration and sales milestones, as well as double-digit royalties on net sales. Sanofi will have exclusive rights to develop and commercialize the treatment worldwide. However, Hanmi will maintain the option to co-commercialize the products in Korea and China. Nearly 400 million people worldwide suffer from diabetes, and that number is expected to keep growing. The treatment has yet to be approved by the FDA, the American regulatory body, but early signs indicate it will pass without issue. It has been a strong year in the pharmaceutical research and development industry in Korea. Korean pharmaceutical company Green Cross signed a deal to supply the World Health Organization with varicella vaccines in a deal worth $75 million, as well as a deal for flu vaccines worth $29 billion. On Tuesday, it was also announced that a drug to treat high blood pressure called Kanab, developed by another Korean company, Boryong Pharmaceuticals, has become the most prescribed medication by cardiovascular specialists in Mexico since hitting the market last year. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Now, there continue to be mixed reactions to the increasing suspicions that a bomb brought down a Russian airliner in Egypt roughly 1 week ago. The United States and Britain are urging the Egyptian government to increase security at its airports, while Russia and Egypt have urged caution against suggestions of terrorist involvement in the accident. Son Jong-in has more.
British Prime Minister David Cameron says it is more likely than not that the Russian plane, which crashed in Egypt's Sinai Desert last weekend, was caused by a bomb.
Look, we cannot be certain that the Russian airliner was brought down by a terrorist bomb, but it looks increasingly likely that that was the case.
Cameron, who made the statement while hosting Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Thursday, supported theories by U.S. officials that the Islamic State militants or one of its affiliates might have planted a bomb inside the plane. U.S. President Barack Obama echoed the suspicions during a radio interview with the Seattle radio station later that day, saying that it was possible that there was a bomb on board. He added that U.S. intelligence and investigators are taking such possibilities very seriously. However, the Egyptian president called any talk about a bomb premature. However, he did say the country was prepared to do whatever is needed to ensure the safety of travelers to Sharm el-Sheikh.
We are prepared to cooperate with any procedures to reassure our friends that sufficient security measures are in place at Sharm el-Sheikh Airport.
A Russian investigative team also said anything at this point was merely speculation and it was too early to reach any conclusions.
Only after analyzing all aspects of the crash will the investigative commission form conclusions on the cause of the accident.
The latest developments have taken a heavy toll on Egypt's economy. Many countries in the region have suspended flights to and from the Egyptian resort of Sharm el-Sheikh in response to the crash that killed all 224 people on board. Son Jong-in, Arirang News.
And as a follow-up to that report, the South Korean embassy in Cairo has advised South Korean citizens against traveling to Sharm el-Sheikh for the time being, while urging those currently in the region around the Sinai Peninsula to leave as soon as possible for their own safety. Now, the international airport on the holiday island of Bali is open again after closing for 3 days because of ash spewing from an erupting volcano. This means thousands of tourists stranded on the Indonesian island are finally able to start going home. More than 300 international flights were cancelled from Tuesday to Thursday. Some airlines are staying grounded for now, but Korea's major airlines will resume their flights. Korean Air and Asiana Airlines say they have dispatched extra planes to bring back hundreds of Korean tourists from the island. Japan is pushing to change the documentary registration system of UNESCO's Memory of the World Register as it continues to show strong opposition to last month's listing of Chinese documents on the Nanjing massacre. According to Tokyo-based Kyodo News, Japanese Culture Minister Hiroshi Hase said at a meeting in Paris on Thursday that the UN heritage body needed to promote discussions to improve governance and transparency of the Memory of the World programme registration. However, he did not comment regarding Japan's earlier threats to withdraw its funding for the UN body. The Nanjing documents relate to Japan's invasion of the southeastern Chinese city in late 1937. The two countries have conflicting views on the number of Chinese civilians and soldiers killed by the Japanese military. NASA has discovered how Mars, a planet once fertile like Earth, transformed into the cold, dry desert planet it is today. The space agency explains solar storms causing ultraviolet radiation along with high-energy gas and magnetic particles just stripped away the atmosphere on Mars, which did not have a magnetic field to protect it from the storm. Scientists add that the loss of its atmosphere occurred over the span of a few 100 million years, from about 3 to 4 million years ago. NASA is actively exploring whether any form of life had existed on Mars after an earlier announcement that salty liquid water flows on the planet. Now, before we go, we're going to leave you with a brief look at the weather here in Korea. And let's start with the good news, which is that the high level of fine dust has mostly dissipated due to a strong easterly breeze blowing across the peninsula. The bad news, at least if you have outdoor plans this weekend, is that we are going to see a sustained period of rain from later this afternoon, and we can expect on and off showers all day on Saturday and Sunday. Temperature-wise, it's going to be pretty chilly as well. The afternoon highs in the low teens throughout the weekend. Well, those are stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. Plenty more news there. It's Friday, so do have a great weekend. Goodbye.